open area, near the banks of rivers and streams, soft, dusty areas, muddy areas free of vegetation, where thick bush has barred the way of any quarry. What to look for. Now that we know some of the main elements of tracking, we also need to understand what it is we are looking for. Who or what are you following? How long ago did the quarry pass this way? What is the weather like? Do we know where the quarry is heading? These are just a few of the basic questions that must be answered before we can start. When we have the answer to these as a starting place, there are two main physiognomies an experienced tracker will look for: transformation and discoloration. Transformation. Transformation can be anything that has changed from its original state. Where there was soft soil, there is now a footprint. Where there was a branch, there is now a broken branch. In some cases, the transformation offers little information, like a broken branch, for example. By comparison, a footprint might be made by a foot, barefoot, or a paw, from which much detail can be assumed. Transformation can also be a continuous thing, where one footprint has trodden on an older footprint, thus aging the original. Discoloration. A turned stone is both displacement and discoloration. In some terrain, this is easy to see, while in others it is not so easy. This applies to a broken branch which has been damaged for several days, as the leaves will have changed color. After crossing a stream or stepping in water, there will be discoloration. Additionally, the quarry will leave behind some discoloration by depositing wet prints on the ground. Depending on the terrain and prevailing weather conditions at the time will determine how long the sign remains visible to the tracker. Some discoloration is easy to detect. Yellow snow is an indication that the quarry is urinated. Where the tracker is following a wounded animal or the enemy after contact, there may well be blood. This is of great help to the tracker, as the discoloration of blood against the natural terrain is quite clear. It also provides quite a lot of information. A wound from the lung will be bright and frothy, whereas blood from the lower body and groin will have the appearance of a dark tar-like substance. The volume and frequency of blood is also a good indication as to how wounded the quarry is and, therefore, to specify the speed at which they are moving. To the experienced tracker, and with the wind in the right direction, fresh blood also smells, so alerting to the tracker that the quarry is close. Footprints, paw prints, tire tracks, all going in different directions. Some have stepped over older prints, but all help provide a tracking picture. Other factors such as terrain, weathering, litter, and possibly camouflage, if it is a military track, will also make a great difference to the quarry track. The tracker must be proficient in understanding the effects of rain, wind, sun, snow, and time on any sign left behind by the quarry. If there has been a military engagement, then the tracking force must be aware of the possibility that the enemy may try to camouflage their tracks. In most cases, the fresher the track, the easier it is to follow, as time allows the spoor to become eroded by weather or diluted by others covering the quarry's spoor. Footprints. Please note that, to stop any repetition, the word footprint refers to both human and animal paw prints. As people normally relate a footprint with tracking, we should look in detail at what this sign offers in the way of information. First, there needs to be a starting point, which is normally a place where there is sufficient evidence of our quarry, that is to say, a series of footprints. This we normally refer to as a starting point. The best place to ascertain a start point is one where the quarry has walked over a stretch of soft, clear, damp soil, or any terrain which acts as a medium, which will produce several clear casts of the footprint. The more clear casts we have, the more information we can interpret. So much can be gleaned from several footprints, such as how fast the person is walking, if they are wounded, male or female, and whether a person is carrying a heavy load or not. We tend to look at footprint but not see anything other than the type of sole of the footwear the quarry was wearing, yet there is so much more that we do not observe. The length of the footprint from heel to toe, how wide the sole is across, distinctive marks on the imprint, maker's brand name or a chip out of the material, or a stone wedged in the tread. The style of the footprint. Where this is more than one footprint in succession from the same quarry, then we can measure pace and stride. Let us look at some of these points in detail. For example, try walking yourself on a dirt track. Take 5 to 10 steps, then turn around and walk backwards in parallel to the first footsteps. Look at the difference and note the changes. Next, find a clear spot and walk 5 to 10 paces, this time dragging your right leg as if wounded. You will find the left footprint is deep as your muscles compensate for not putting pressure on your right leg. You will also see that the right leg is slightly out to one side as the body naturally swings the leg forward again in an effort to relieve any pressure. The same pattern, but with another set of footprints very close, with a short step, could indicate that the injured person is being assisted by another person. Someone walking with a limp or a sprained ankle will favor the injured foot by placing only the tip of the foot down in a kind of hopping motion. Measuring the stride of your quarry from heel to forward toe will provide a pace. It is best to get yourself a stick and break it so that it fits the pace of your quarry. This way, you do not have to keep stopping to measure the stride. If the stride widens or shortens, then it can reveal several clues. A shortened stride might mean the quarry is getting tired, while a wider stride may mean they have upped the speed they are traveling. The stride of the average middle-aged male is just over a meter, while the same man running away will increase their stride to 1.5 meters or more. The faster we run, the straighter our footprints become, and at an all-out run, there would only be the sole showing as the heel will not hit the ground. By comparison, anyone carrying a large burden will have a short stride and the footprints will mostly point outwards as the body tries to maintain balance. One of the best ways to learn the difference is to practice on a flat, dusty road or track. Get a branch and clear any previously made footprints or vehicle marks so that the surface will display only the footprints you make. Walk deliberately without stopping and then go back and measure your stride. Break a stick to that size. Now run as fast as you can, parallel to the same set of prints. Again, use your stick to see the difference in stride and the impression made by your foot. If you have a partner of the opposite sex, then try doing the same footprint test together walking side by side. You will find that it is fairly easy with a little practice to distinguish the difference in sex. Do not just look for the style of footprint, look how deeply each has penetrated the same soil. Most, but not all, women have a slight turned-in toe within their step. Once you've done that, try a fireman's lift with a friend and then walk over the ground again and observe the footprints. Finally, look in detail at all the footprints you've made and take a note of the difference. It is a good idea to use the camera on your phone to take a few images you can use for reference later. Direction of travel. Direction is possibly one of the most important factors of visual tracking, as it is an indication of the overall route the quarry is taking. In a military situation, there will be intelligence that indicated which way the enemy would normally be heading, but if we were tracking an animal that is grassing, it could wander anywhere. With a good knowledge of the terrain and what he is tracking, a good tracker will be able to determine where the quarry is headed and push forward quickly. Judging the direction of travel of a quarry is vital to speed and interception, especially in a military operation. Assessing direction is a major skill when visual tracking, especially when the spoor is over hard ground. There are normally lots of indicators as the quarry's direction of travel, and if they diversify, then there's normally a very strong reason, i.e. a river in flood or another obstacle that is dangerous to cross, thus forcing the quarry to leave the direction of travel. In most cases, when this happens, the quarry will regain the direction as soon as possible. A simple direction could be established if you are tracking a quarry through a valley with very steep sides. The odds that they will climb a steep cliff or scale a very high mountain are limited if the quarry has no indication you are following. When thinking about direction, the tracker must put themselves in the mind of the quarry. Where are they going? In a guerrilla war, it is fairly easy to establish that they will most probably head for safe territory. A lost hiker, if they obey the rules, will head downhill, and someone going from A to B will hopefully have told someone where they were heading. Start point. Start points are extremely important, and a good tracker will locate one quickly. In a military situation, this is fairly easy if the enemy has made contact and had a firefight or is laid in ambush. There will be lots of signs for this, such as empty ammunition cases, etc. The enemy will also run for safe location after the firefight or ambush, and the tracker will know this. It is, therefore, a simple matter of following the enemy until the tracker finds a soft spot of ground which has lots of footprints. Another good start point is where the enemy has spent some time or rested overnight. A good start point will indicate the number of people in the party. This is a simple matter of counting the different footwear or sizes over a given area. It will reveal the sex of the individuals, as women normally have smaller feet and a shorter step than men, if they are carrying anything, because this deepens the foot imprints and may indicate load carrying. The length of a stride will indicate the speed at which the quarry is moving. Moreover, a professional tracker will also look for individual footprint identification markings. It is not unusual to have several different types of footwear styles in a party. In this case, it is best to try and identify the strongest print, as this is normally the last person in the group. Starting point indicators. It is generally accepted that the visual tracker with the most experience over the type of terrain they wish to track will make an assessment of where to look for the best starting point. In many cases, this is done for them, as they may well be tasked to do a follow-up after an IED incident or where an ambush has taken place. In this case, it is a matter of establishing the direction of travel the enemy will have taken. Where there is no firm evidence to indicate a starting point, the tracker will use his local knowledge and check that area for the sign. These include traditional areas where the enemy have appeared, a known or most likely campsite, riverbanks and known crossings, areas of track major junctions, expressly MSRs, areas of steep gradients, especially in the jungle, as a climbing man leaves a lot of signs. In many cases, it is the skill and local knowledge that will allow the tracker leader to locate the direction an enemy has gone. Where no evidence is found, it remains to carry out a search of an area, similar to the cast when the track has been lost. However, the cast area will be much larger, and depending on the terrain, may well turn into a type of fan search, using all available trained trackers to spread out and look for a start point. While this method is time-consuming and will require covering a large area of ground, it can prove effective. A normal fan search will start from a chosen spot and cover distances up to 200 to 300 meters. If there is a track in the vicinity, this may well be used to form a baseline, or a similar action can be carried out using a river or stream. This type of search becomes more difficult when carrying out a cross-grain search. Enemy camp. Finding an overnight camp will reveal a lot of information to the tracker, especially in a military situation. It will also act as a good starting point. Litter and poor camp discipline is one of the great benefactors to the tracker. It offers much information about the quarry and, above all, it provides confirmation. A quarry which has poor discipline and leaves litter along the trail is making life very simple for the tracker, as it allows him to jump ahead very quickly. It also tells the tracker that the quarry is not caring if it is followed or not, and therefore they will be noisy. Cigarette smoke and the sweetness of chewing gum will be detectable for up to 100 meters, more in a close jungle environment. The silver wrapper from a chocolate bar can be seen up to 300 meters on the floor of the desert, while human and animal feces attract flies, thus drawing the tracker's attention toward it. Poor camp discipline will show signs of fire, sleeping, cooking, and possibly weapons. The experienced tracker will derive so much intelligence from one poorly disciplined campsite used by the quarry. See Chapter 5.